All right, so now we're going to talk about the knowledge article lifecycle and also enabling knowledge in your own organization. And so I want to make sure that you've got the knowledge user checkbox checked for your own user account and also for your additional user. I've got the John Doe user account open right now. And so then search for the term knowledge in setup, and you can go to knowledge settings in order to enable Salesforce knowledge. I'm doing this in Classic because it's not available in Lightning Experience to enable this. There's a couple of notes here. The first one is that you can't revert back to not having knowledge enabled once you've enabled it. And then also there's some notes around tab visibility, and you can go into the profile settings and change the tab visibility at the profile level. And then as well, the other note talks about that once you've enabled, you can hide the tabs by unchecking the view articles and edit articles profile permissions, for example, and that you can hide the administration settings by unchecking the manage Salesforce knowledge profile permissions as well. And so the main thing to bear in mind is that you can go in after you've enabled this and adjust the profile settings accordingly. We may do some of that later on in this course, but it's not really a big concern. So just check, yes, I understand the impact, and then click Enable Salesforce Knowledge, and then click OK to confirm. And so now there's a lot of settings on this page, and I'm going to scroll down here and show you all of these, and there's a corresponding PDF file that you could access that gives you more details on these knowledge settings. And let me show you that PDF here. I'll make this link available in the resources section of this lecture, and this is called the Complete Guide to Salesforce Knowledge or something like that. So this PDF has a section related to this particular screen that we're on. That section in this PDF is this one here about enabling Salesforce knowledge, and if you scroll down, you've got information around the different knowledge settings you can set up, and under the feature and options of this PDF, you see the general settings, for example. And then if I scroll down and show you some of the other features and options, those correspond with the different sections in the knowledge settings screen. And so, for example, suggested related articles on cases. And we'll be getting into a lot of these settings in this lecture and subsequent lectures dealing with knowledge. So if I go back to the screen here, here's the corresponding settings in the different sections, such as general settings and Lightning knowledge settings, etc. The main thing is you need to click edit, and then you can go in and make changes to the knowledge settings. It says here, if you're setting up Salesforce knowledge for the first time, click the help article. That brings up the corresponding help article that PDF was derived from. Salesforce usually provides a PDF and online help in a context-sensitive format. And so here's, for example, the Salesforce Knowledge Documentation Overview, and this is the PDF, the corresponding section for that, for building your knowledge base, for example. And so you'll find that in the online help as well here, the build your knowledge base. And so it really just depends on what you prefer, but I'll make the link available to the PDF, or you can click through in the link here in order to get to that online help. And so, for example, if I click Enable Salesforce Knowledge, that takes you back to that table with the different settings that are here. And so now we're going to go through and set some of this up. We're going to activate validation status field and check that and leave the other defaults checked. And then for the Lightning Knowledge settings, I'm going to go ahead and enable Lightning Knowledge. And we'll need one article type in order to do that, but we'll go ahead and check that. And then we're also going to enable the automatic loading of the rich text editor when editing an article. And then for article summaries, you can show the article summaries in the article list views for the internal app, the customer and partner. And the customer and partner would have to do with portals or communities is what they're called now. And there's the Knowledge One settings. If I click on this help link, it actually takes over the current screen. So I'm going to go back and hope that my settings persist, which they do, fortunately. So note to Salesforce, you need to make that link open in a new tab or window. So instead, I'm going to right click that link and open in a new tab. So that's the help article related to that particular link, and that's just more information. But I'm going to go back and get back into my settings here. For the Knowledge One settings, I'm going to check to suggest related articles on cases. And so then you can choose up to 5 fields that Salesforce uses to help discern what are suggested articles that should be pulled into the support rep or the support agent as they're working a case. And so we're going to select some of these available case fields, and Salesforce's knowledge algorithm will use the data they find in those fields to present related knowledge articles that may be helpful to the service agent as they're trying to resolve cases. I believe I'll use, as far as fields to select, ones that would make sense that we would want Salesforce to search through in order to do some matching would be product. And then as well, I think that another good field to use would be internal comments. And then also to round this out, we'll use a couple of other fields. We'll use case type. And then finally, we can do one more. So I'm going to do case reason. And then you can reorder those if you want, but we're just going to display those case fields here in that order. And then we're just going to use the single language option of English. You could do multiple language by clicking here, and that opens up further language options, but we're going to stick with single language and English as the default. We're also going to allow users to create an article from a case by clicking that checkbox, and then there's other options that open up here as far as using the standard editor anytime a user creates an article, which I'll leave that, and select knowledge for the default article type. The article assignee and Apex customizations go beyond really the scope of this exam, so I'm going to leave those unchecked. You can use a profile to create customer-ready article PDFs on cases. I'm going to leave that unchecked. And then we'll leave the other options checked as far as enabling list of cases linked to an article in Salesforce Classic and enable case data category mapping. You can also share articles via URL settings, but you have to have sites set up through site.com. That's an additional feature that Salesforce provides for publicly accessible knowledge bases. I'm going to leave that unchecked for now, but you can check that if you set up sites. There'll be more information on that in the PDF that I linked to in the resources section and mentioned earlier. Then for answer settings, you can allow users to create an article from a reply, and I don't think I'm going to do that. And then chatter questions, you can display relevant articles as users ask questions in chatter by checking the checkbox. And then as well, you can do knowledge statistics settings. This has to do with the ratings of your knowledge articles. The default is a 1 through 5 star system, but if you enable the thumbs up or down voting, then that changes from a 1 to 5 star system to just a thumbs up or thumbs down. You've seen that in online helps as far as was this article helpful, and you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. When you're done with the settings, you just click save. And so now that we've set up and enabled knowledge in our org, we're going to talk briefly in the remainder of this lecture about the knowledge article lifecycle. All right, so to touch on the knowledge article lifecycle to round out this lecture, I thought I would switch over to Lightning Experience just to show now that we've enabled knowledge in our org. Knowledge is available through setup and Lightning Experience. You can get to the knowledge settings and it's the same screen as in Classic, and you can make further adjustments. I don't think knowledge settings was available before it was enabled in Lightning Experience. So knowledge is still kind of in beta with Lightning Experience. But the main things to keep in mind as far as the knowledge article lifecycle, that has to do with the typical life cycle of knowledge article publishing, and that's the initial creation, and then you go through a review cycle and approval, and then you publish those knowledge articles. Then the next step in the knowledge article life cycle is consumption. That's where the end users, the agents, the customers will consume those articles, and then you gather feedback. And so if you remember, that final piece of the knowledge article lifecycle having to do with feedback has to do with this thumbs up or thumbs down as far as getting feedback on your articles. And so we're going to be getting into more related to the knowledge article lifecycle as far as creation, publishing, consumption, and feedback in subsequent lectures. And the next lecture, we're going to be looking at managing knowledge adoption and maintenance.